Okay. Have 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting, budget hearing to order. Appreciate everybody being here, particularly the department heads tonight, the sheriffs. We're going to have to do a little rearranging on what we had originally planned for the nights ahead. Tonight, I'd like to start out with the sheriff's department, and then we'll get into the county general departments. Went ahead and canceled steering committee for next Tuesday. And in that stead, we will have budget hearings and try to deal with the school budgets and the overall budgets, anything that we have left over. Hopefully we can finish up that Tuesday night instead of going to that Thursday night. Main reason for that change is myself and the mayor and sheriff, some of the commissioners, supposed to be doing some jail tours up in East Tennessee. We're afraid we weren't going to be able to get back in time to do that. So that's why we were trying to move that May 12th up to May 10th. That makes sense with everyone? Okay, no opposition. Also, I believe today, if I'm, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, is today National Day of Prayer? Mark, do you know whether that's, I think it's today, is it not? Okay. So if you would, let's open our meeting with a prayer, please. Would you join me? Heavenly Father, we pause now at this time in the day to give you thanks. Thanks for our country. Thanks for the freedoms that we all enjoy. Thank you for the opportunity of being able to serve our community and serve our fellow man. We ask that you be with us in our deliberations tonight, that the things that we do, think, and say are for the benefit of everyone. Please be with the leaders of our country, the leaders of our community and state, and let us always give you the glory, the thanks, and the praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, let's start off with the sheriff's budget. We've got one little, I guess the 122, the county drug fund. That basically, for all practical purposes, is a pass-through or a designated funds. They come into the sheriff's department, and then typically toward the end of the year when we see how much money that is, he lets us know where and how he wants to spend it. So there's really not a lot to look at on that fund. Is there any questions on that one? Did I explain that well enough, Amy? Sheriff? Okay. All right, if everybody's okay with it, then we'll move to page 18 on your 101 packet. And we'll start off there with, we'll just go down the line with these, and no, I'm sure there will be questions as we go forward. First one is the 101 53920. This is courtroom security. Mayor, are you going to present this, or is the sheriff going to?
You want to do?
Or y'all going to do it jointly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I need to update the payroll information.
Okay, please give us those numbers.
All right, 53,920. Your deputies is 112,731. And overtime stays at 3,000. The function total is 141,112.
All right, thank you, Amy. Try to help me remember to do that each time. I hate we're having to do that, but it's not my call. Sheriff?
As you all know, this courtroom security, this is for the guards at the courthouse. We've got full-time, one full-time's paid out of this, a couple part-time. Nothing's really changed other than in the raise that's in the effect right now. Everything else is pretty much the same as it was last year.
Mayor, do you have anything to
Questions?
add to that?
No, it's mainly outside of labor costs, really on things, law enforcement equipment, and that stayed the same.
We also get litigation taxes from our court, from the fines that are come in through the court, goes toward this courtroom security, helps pay for these salaries and equipment, everything we need.
I believe we covered that in the revenue side of things, did we not already? So, any questions on this, Commissioner? Okay, everybody okay with this one? We are. We'll take these all together. We won't take them individually as far as approving them. Okay, let's just plow on ahead. Next would be page 19. That's 101, 54, 110. This is the patrols, I believe. Is that correct? Okay.
Which one did you say? I don't have the same page.
Amy, can you update our salary figures on that one, please?
Yes, I can.
Sure.
Is everybody ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Except for the second row?
Yeah.
54, 110. Your, of course, your sheriff's remains the same. Your deputies is 664, 550. Your dispatchers or radio operators, 145,000. I'm sorry? Yes. Clerical personnel is 38,590. Your SROs, and my computer just decided to move on me, is 145,500. Overtime pay is at 100,000. I don't believe that changed.
Of course, there will be some changes to the Social Security, retirement, medical, things of that nature, but they're minimal and they'll be included in our grand total. And that is
The Sheriff's Department total comes down to 1,876,232.
all right. Now that we have, go ahead and give us the one for drug enforcement, if you would, 101, 54, 150, since we're on that page.
54, 150 deputies, 56,728. The total for drug enforcement is 77,541.
We'll go with that for now. Okay. Sheriff. Public Safety, Sheriff's Department. Statement D, page 19. Hit the highlights or the things that are notably different from last year.
Most everything is pretty close to the same, other than fuel. Actually, I think it's a little bit less far as other than payroll this time than what it was last year, because of equipment and stuff we got through grant money. Everything else is pretty much close to the same, very little change in it.
We're increasing gas from 40 to 60, about in line with what we've been doing on the other departments. I hope that's enough. It may not be, but that's where we're going with it at this point. Mayor, did you have any comments on this one?
No, other than like you said, just had a big jump in gasoline, trying to cover that cost. And then some of the other ones have been changed throughout the year due to accidents and whatnot. That's why you see your vehicle line items high compared to what we're proposing in the budget. That's where we've had, deers, suspects ramming police vehicles and whatnot, and those come in, that's increased that as we've amended throughout the year.
Mr. Clarity, you reckon?
Hey, I'm looking, it says animal food and supplies, $1,500. What's that cover? Where does that go?
That's for our K9, our K9 dog.
Well, right above that, it says K9 2,000. Training, the both of them not,
No, they're not, no, they're not together. Training separately from food, medical supplies, going to the vet, getting shots and taking care of that type of thing.
How much do the dogs make? Just kidding, just kidding. Looks like supplies, the same amount. Do you think that's gonna hold, or that's the only thing that I saw that I questioned that might need to be possibly
Which
more?
supplies you talking about?
54, 110, 431 would be the top, very top. entry on
Law
page
enforcement
20.
supplies?
Yes, yes.
I think it'll be enough. We got a lot of new equipment through our grants and stuff this past year, and I think this way will be efficient for us.
We're looking at 2 patrol cars, is that correct?
That's 2, correct.
And that's due to those in-service type of timing out, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners? It's your time to shine. Okay,
One question
yes, sir, Mr.
on
Jones.
the rentals, 351 there, 101, 54, 110, 351. What are those rentals exactly?
Those are TBI lines that we have to rent. It's required by the state that we have these to run through our NCIC computerized system, and those are the fees and stuff we have to pay to be connected with TBI.
So why were they in the $20,000 range actual in the 2020, 2021, and now we're only proposing 10,000?
We done some changing around on our lines and ran it through the computer system now, and we got it cheaper than what we were doing. Just upgraded it, and it's a lot better too.
Any other questions?
One more.
Yes, sir.
The MiFi cards on, what's that, communications? I say communications is up quite a bit. Is that due to the increased computers and things of that nature?
Yeah, the increase for that is the air cards that's going in our laptop computers.
Okay.
And that's gonna be the increase there.
So that'll pretty much be a continuous line
Yes.
item.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Was that to pay for the cards or is that to pay for their monthly? I see the $850 monthly.
It's a monthly.
It's the monthly.
That's what I
fee.
thought. So it's gonna be a continued, we're
Yeah.
not having to buy the card up front. That's not an extra cost in there. It's just gonna be the flat fee. Thank you.
I think it totaled out for all of them, $850 a month roughly. And then they also have their cell phones involved in that. I know one thing that was discussed was the possibility of trying to do a hotspot off the cell phone, but wasn't sure that was going to work because of some of the cell phone coverage is still kind of spotty at times, and they may need to actually be on both simultaneously. So I think that was a lot of the reason for trying to go both, have redundancy there as well. Mayor, do you have anything to add on this one? You good with this?
Yes, sir.
Any further questions on this one? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next is your drug enforcement, which is 101, 54, 150. Not a lot of change at all in it other than the salary component. Any questions on that one? Sheriff, anything you need to add?
Everything's pretty much the same as last year, just other than the salary increase, and I went up, like $1,000 on the gas on that one, from 1,500 to 2,500.
Everybody satisfied with that one? Let's see. Administration of Sexual Offender Registry, that's a pass through. We get, basically, we get funded to do that, if I'm not remembering.
Where this comes from is money that we collect when people move into our county or are living here and have to register with us. This is where these funds come from, and we use them, can only use them to buy like materials and stuff for the office and what we use. Computers, we can buy some stuff for them, or cameras that we need to use to do our sex offender registry.
Are there any questions on that one? Everybody understand that? Okay. Okay, we'll get into 54-210, which is our jail. Let's get some updated salary figures, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Jail, your guards, 675,000 even. Cafeteria personnel, 77,811. Overtime pay is at 15,000. That brings the total jail function to 1,331,128.
1331128.
Yes, sir.
We'll go ahead and do workhouse while we're there.
Okay. Workhouse, 54,220. Your guards, 65,196.
Tell me again, 65.
65,196.
Okay.
Just to note, one of the guards, half of it goes over to the litter grant. So that's why it looks a little wonky. The total workhouse function is 103,868.
$103,868. Why is that such a? Okay. I don't understand why there's the difference there.
There was, looks like a budget amendment for other equipment for 9,000 this current year, and we do not have 8,400 of that.
Well, oh, the last line item. Okay, got you now. 94. Okay. That makes the difference. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the jail. All right, Sheriff. Shoot. I mean, talk.
Everything you like to say is pretty much the same here too. The only increases we have is maybe for food supplies. We had 70,000 budget this year. We're gonna go over, and our budget is 90,000 for this year. Other than that, everything is pretty close to the same. Medical went up $5,000 on the contract that we have. And everything else is pretty much the same as it has been, other than the salaries.
On the medical contract, was that built into the contract that we have, or what, has it been bid again?
Yeah, we've done a three-year contract with Dr. Carey's office, and it went up like 1% this year, so I increased it that amount.
There's a year-over-year increase built into the contract.
That's what I was remembering. I just want to make sure I
Yeah,
was
that's
correct.
correct.
on that. So basically, you didn't jump electricity any at all? I know in some of our other, we have, because we were anticipating a bit of an increase there. Hope that will be enough. If it's not, we'll address it at a later date. Any questions, commissioners? Mr. Clarity.
See where it says Dr. Carey contract, and now beside it, dental services, how much is that? Is that,
It's all,
it's the same contract?
when we do our dental with the Dr. Runyon out here, but all that's together in the same amount.
So Dr. Carey and the dental is all under one?
Yeah, it's not in the same contract, but
But
the
it's
same
under-
line item.
One price.
Yes, yes.
Any further questions on this one? Mayor, you comfortable with this?
Yes, sir. The sheriff and I sat down and went over it, and this is kind of what we agreed to.
All right, any further questions on the jail, on the 54-210? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Workhouse, 54-220.
Then again, it's still pretty much basically, I went up a little bit on the fuel, a couple $1,000. Everything here is about close to the same. We sold some aluminum cans last month that we picked up on the side of the road, but for about $1,000, and we bought 2 new weed eaters and some water and stuff like that. Materials we have to buy, weed eater twine and different things like that. And we're in pretty good shape on everything right now.
Questions? Okay. All right, that takes care of workhouse. I think that's everything in the sheriff's budget on 101. And we'll jump to 111. You should have a page. See what I did with mine.
We got 101, 55, 170 also, alcohol and drug treatment programs.
55, 170. Yes. That's on page 29. Sorry, I didn't have that on my list. Everything there is virtually the same, is it not?
Yes, it's all the same.
Any problem with that one, commissioners? Any questions on that one? Thank you, Sheriff. All right, 111, you should be your, I think, second page, if I remember correctly, of your 111. Gets into public safety. It says statement J at the top, public safety, Sheriff's Department, 111. Give me some new figures on deputies, please, ma'am.
For 111, 54, 110, your deputies are 230,000 even. $230,000. Your dispatchers are $71,970. Overtime is at $40,000. That brings the function to $576,710.
It appears that we were estimating quite a bit under from last year's budget amount. Can you explain, was that just grants that we had to put into that category, or? Well, it says estimated 483 and we're at 576. I mean, 483 versus the 547 that were budgeted, that's almost $90,000. I just wondered where that 90,000 was. I mean, I can see 25 of it in the budget bulletproof vest, but I was just wondering where the rest of that is, as Paul Harvey would say. 55 for motor vehicles. So that was, okay, one patrol car coming out of 111 last year and one patrol car this year. It just looks, the numbers just don't look. I don't have a 10 key in front of me, so I can't play it, but just wondering where that difference is coming in. You see what I'm talking about? Okay.
I mean, it looks like your communication lines is down. Your vehicles repair and services was budgeted at 10,000. You've only used 1,500.
Okay, that's a big chunk of it right there. Yeah, okay.
Your in-service staff development, you haven't used 5,000, and law enforcement equipment, he hasn't used 25,000.
Okay.
So it's in there.
Okay. All right, commissioners, sheriff, you want to comment on this one?
It's like pretty much like the others, you know, everything's try to held everything to what we had last year. Fuel increased a little bit. Just trying to keep it down as much as we can.
Mayor?
It's like your sheriff said, really the only big increase outside the labor cost is gasoline went up 5,000 on that. Other than that, if you look at motor vehicles, actually came down 10,000. So that kind of offset some of it. But other than that, that's the only real big changes.
Bubba?
25,000 for bulletproof vest, it says. Is that just for the three? Officers out of the urban services, or I didn't say no 20 coming out of the 101 for bulletproof vest.
That was for radios and other stuff too, other than just a vest.
Vests were $6,000 each. I think there were.
Yeah, we had some level 3 vests that we use for our SWAT team. They're more expensive than regular vests and other equipment.
If I remember, I think there were 3 of the vests that came out of the 111. The rest was in the 101, and because of those 3 officers, and then those radios for those officers, that's why that was there. I'm pulling that from memory.
When we switched over, you know, from our radio, we used to be on analog. Then we switched over, and that was the expense on these radios. That's where most of the expense is.
Mr. Gully?
My question was, we budgeted this in the 2021, 2022, we haven't spent any of that. So is this just money we're carrying over? Are we trying to, did you not, or have you not been able to purchase those yet? Are they still coming? In other words, that 25,000 that was budgeted and is not estimated to be spent in this year, it was budgeted in this year's as well. So you're budgeting it again?
I'd have to check. We got equipment still coming in, and stuff we've ordered. That's like our pistols just recently came in. They've been ordered since last year. And our leather's coming in piece at a time. We might get some holsters one day and 2 or 3 weeks later, get something else. Everybody's so shorthanded on all their equipment and stuff. I'd have to look. We got stuff piled up in there. We don't have everything ready together to give out to everybody. It's coming in slow. So I don't know if we've paid all these out yet or not. I'd have to look and see.
That was my question there in that case. You know, it's estimated to not spend it at all. So is that something we're looking at? We
Yes.
just haven't got here yet.
Some of us hadn't gotten here yet, I'd say.
I don't think it's gonna make it in this year. That's why we carried that figure over to next year. Is that correct, Mayor? That,
Yeah, I think we have, and Amy can correct me, I think you'll carry it over for like a couple of months. Am I correct on that, Amy? And then you run in the new budget?
If there's a purchase order on it, it'll be in that whichever year the purchase order was opened. So if these are the vests from 2020, then they're basically in that line, that year, and they've already been accounted for. So if that's the case, then what I'm looking at is there's 25,000 that's being carried over every year, but it's already been used. Does that make sense?
any further questions, commissioners?
Mr. Joe.
Yes, sir, Mr.
So if I'm looking at this right, we're getting 2 patrol cars out of 101 and 1 out of 111. So when we replace 3,
That's correct.
That's what we set up on the rotate schedule to, I think we keep them to 4 years, 5 years in service.
Some of them, they've been rotating out about every 8 or 10 years.
Okay,
What we're getting rid of, these will be replacing cars that are 8 or 10 years old most of the time.
the patrol car. Yeah. I think that's the same as what we did do last year, and I know that we talked about that that's probably the schedule we'd be able to hold to for the next.
And one thing that's really helped us out with us doing the way we're doing these 3 cars every year is our maintenance. We're not having years of breakdowns and tear ups. We are keeping these cars for a longer period of time. We're spending a lot more money on them, transmission, the engines, and we're not having that trouble now because we're replacing them out. 150 to 200,000 miles is usually about where we're running at.
Mr. Joe.
Any further questions? Yes, sir, Ms. Clarity, I'm sorry.
I got a question for the sheriff. Mr. Beatty, is he deputized as a medic through the sheriff's department?
Yes, he is.
What payroll does that come out of?
He volunteers his time for free.
So he's not getting any money?
No,
at
he's
all?
not getting any money. He's our medic. If we go in on a search warrant or into a situation where we have to take our CERT team in or go in and get somebody that's barricaded, he's with us. He's geared up with all his medical gear. He's still working for his job. He just volunteered. He's got on the bulletproof vest, everything like the rest of the officers does. And he's just geared up with us in case somebody does get shot or injured. He's right there with us. And it's really helped us out. He's been with us on several times we've had to go in and get somebody out of a house or situations. He's been with us. He goes through training, firearms training, 40 hours in service training. He's not a full officer where he can go out and make arrests with everybody else. He could, but he's always with a supervisor at all times.
That answer your question?
All right, when he goes, since he's volunteering, is that covered under the insurance liability and all of that stuff, since he's just a volunteer?
He's still an employee of Trouser County. and he's carrying out his duties as a medic when he goes with us.
So he's covered under the ambulance service and not the sheriff's.
Well, either way, it would be coming out of county budget. I don't. If he's volunteering his time and the sheriff wants to utilize his services in that way.
It's no different in a volunteer fireman or a rescue. He's volunteering his time, training. He's a reserve deputy is what he is.
As far as
Well,
insurance, it's whichever incident has happened. So if an incident has happened in the ambulance, then ambulance would cover it. If an incident has happened in a sheriff's department, then we would file it under the sheriff's department. It's not per employee, it's per incident.
How can he be a reserve deputy if he hadn't gone through the academy and all of that to be certified?
As long as you don't work over 20 hours a week, just like my courtroom officers, you don't have to be post certified. But you have to be with a supervisor if you're out doing work like that, which he always is.
Well, when I've seen him leave in different times, he's in the vehicle by himself, not with a supervisor.
When he's with us, he's with a supervisor. Now, if he's going home from where we've been, I don't know, he's going home. I don't see what the problem is. I've tried to run my department the way I see fit. And I've tried to do everything by the law, what I do. I don't try to cut corners. I do things to try to help this county. And that's one thing that's helping my office with them just getting shot out there. I'm tickled to death that he's right there with us to help us. And I don't know what the problem is here. I just wish we had more people like him that would volunteer for rescue and fire and help us out in our community.
Any more questions? Anybody have any further questions for the sheriff? Okay, I think we've covered all of the sheriff's budgets. Anything that we missed, Mayor, that we need to bring out, or Amy, you think we got it all?
I believe that should cover everything on the sheriff's department.
Okay, Mr. Harsh,
Move to approve the sheriff's budget.
have a motion to approve and a second by Mr. Walsh. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is done. It is approved. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it greatly.
Thank y'all.
All right. We'll move into our county general departments. In our 101, which one do we start with first? What page is it? Top of page 8. Page 8. Start page 8, statement D. All right, let's start out with the county mayor. So give us some updated figures, please.
All righty. County mayor, your administrative assistant or budget director, $50,080. If you would like to increase that, I wouldn't argue. Your clerical personnel, $80,477. Part-time personnel, $18,100. Overtime pay at $10,000. That brings your function total to $345,777.
345,
777.
777. Ooh, that's a lucky number. Okay. Mayor?
You go down from the employer Medicare, that's the last one, that's the benefits. Advertising, we have had to advertise some notices and whatnot on the mayor's office for bids and whatnot, so we didn't have that in this year's budget. So we're proposing 500 for next year. There's a small increase in your data processing services, and that's because we've seen an increase in what we're going to have to pay. So that's just going up with that. We did go up a little bit in printing and stationery. That's for payroll forms and envelopes. We went up a little bit on travel. We normally don't use all that, but we did go up a little bit now that COVID's over and we're starting to see more conferences and everything go back to in person and more trainings go back to in person. Office supplies stayed the same. I went down a little bit on office furniture. It's because we had purchased some this year. And so we just went down to 500 from 1,500 in the current budget. Office equipment left the same, and that gets you to the 345,777.
Questions? Everybody okay with this? Entertain a motion to approve this portion of the budget. Mr. Gregory makes a motion. Ms. Atwood gets the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It does carry. Thank you. Next is 51,400 county attorney. Mayor?
Yeah, you do see a pretty sizable increase here in the county attorney. He requested an increase in his hourly rate. His original request was $225 an hour. We agreed on $205 an hour. That could have been various ways it went. There could have been a retainer fee and whatnot, but he was comfortable just staying at his hourly charge versus charging retainer and then doing a little bit of hourly above that. So that's why we increased that number. And then we went up $1,000 on public notices for land sales, and we had some more items go through court, so that increased our legal notices, recording, and court costs.
Okay. Are we anticipating needing more legal work, or do you think the workload will be about the same and it's only the difference in the pay structure? Do we have a lot of things pending right now that are in the court system?
I think we have more things going through under like codes enforcement and whatnot, those things going through. We do have a couple of suits we were involved in that he's just working on to get those dismissed. I don't see those going very far. But in the current fiscal year, we are approaching, at this point in the year, we've already exceeded what we had done kind of averaging on the last few years. So that's why we increased it based on what we've seen this year.
So this is what you would anticipate the absolute worst case scenario? Don't think it would ever go over this amount, or is this just a shot in the dark?
No, this would be the absolute high side. I don't see us approaching this. We get billed every month, so we keep track of it, and we get, kind of a listing of what the work has been done that month. So it's something we keep an eye on.
Commissioners, questions on this one? It's a big jump, obviously, but we know that I think many of us have questioned in times past if we were paying Mr. Beller enough. I think that's come up on more than one occasion. So I think that's still of argument.
Motion approved, sir.
Okay, we do have a motion to approve, and I have a second by Mr. Walsh. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. I believe that one is good to go. All right. Election Commission. Is that where we want to go next? Okay, we're just going to go plow through it. Do you think Mr. Paxton will be here? Do they have a meeting tonight? I don't think they do they? Julie must have it. I tell you what, let's skip it in case Mr. Paxton does come in. We can come back to it. That's okay with everyone. You want to go ahead and give us those figures while we're there at it? Okay. Nothing on. Okay. Okay. I knew there wouldn't be to him, but I wasn't sure about the deputies. Okay. All right. What's next then? Register of deeds. Don't be bashful, Candace. Give us our figure. Let's see, there's no really change because we're contemplating going full time on that. Was that correct? There'd be no updates on the salary figures there other than we have the honor of having our lovely Register of Deeds with us tonight, and y'all make her feel welcome. She's kind of a bashful person. We know that. The only thing that I think that you changed and it was requesting taking your part-time deputy to a full-time position. I had talked with her at length about this, and we've had, I think, 3 part-time in the last little bit. Once they find a full-time job, they're gone. So with the amount of work that she has in the office now and trying to scan a lot of the records in, things of this nature, and the trouble of being able to try to keep a full-time person, wanting to try to move that, that request was to take that from part-time to full-time. And the difference on that would have been 17,410 to 29,610. You'll see the line in yellow there on your budget. Is there anything else you need to tell us about? I know that record books have gone up in price if we have to buy some of those, and you put a little bit more money, I think, in there for office supplies. Was there anything that I missed, Mayor, Candace?
There is a little bit more in here for furniture and fixtures. It's 7,720. And that's because the current shelving for the records books is about full. So she's going to have to get another set of shelving. And we have to have those. That's just the way it is.
Right. That's 51,600, 711. Anything else? Did I sum that up adequately?
Yes, sir, you did good.
Okay. Any questions for Candace or the mayor on this one? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Atwood. Have a motion to approve by Ms. Atwood, second by Mr. Burton. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. All right, next we move into planning and codes. Do we need updated figures? This would be the 51,720.
51,720. Your director, I believe, stays the same at 45,760. His clerical personnel is 31,442. That brings the function of planning and codes to 121,460.
460.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Edwards, you want to go over this with us? Is there just basically highlight any of the major changes?
So like every year, I put a safe buffer in for unforeseeable stuff. Legal notices and recording court calls have went up. I put a little bump in the board and committee members. We've had a lot more BZA requests and planning requests. Maintenance and repair service vehicles, I put a bump in that because I've got a tire that I keep putting air in. It's been looked at. It's got a nail that can't be removed. It's in a weird angle. And I've got a crack in my front windshield. It's been there since it snowed. It broke from the seal at the bottom near the hood. So it's just weather that cracked it, but it's not in my visual line of sight. So we're just dealing with it at the moment. But if it keeps spreading, it will need to be replaced. So I'm putting it in there in case it keeps spreading. It is slowly traveling, but it's not traveling in the direction of the driver's seat. So I'm just going to deal with it until it gets worse. Other contracted services, which is GNRC, they go up every year. So there's a bump in there for them. Gasoline, everybody knows is going up. So I've been driving a whole lot more lately with all the construction that's going on, as well as potential commercial businesses, meeting them on site and looking at their ideas and what they're trying to get done. The library books, I put in an increase in there for those. There are other books that I am planning on purchasing. Just went to my yearly meeting, and they requested that I apply for the Master Codes official course that they've got out, which potentially that's going to be more testing and more books. So I'm going to definitely put a lot of effort into that. And that's all the significant changes.
Mayor, any comments on this one?
On the GNRC, where it went up 1,000, that is based on population estimates, and I think there was a slight increase in the dues as well. So with those two things going up, that increased, we did increase the GNRC's contract services.
Have we received an invoice from them for next year, or a proposal of what it would be? I know a lot of times toward the end of the year, we'll get that. We usually don't have it in time for budget, but have we
I
seen
think that is
anything?
what Ms. Thomas is looking up right now. We received several. And I don't remember, we received one that told us it was going to go up, but they didn't give us amount. And I don't remember if that was GNRC or not.
The figure I saw, I did an estimate based on that figure, and put a buffer in there just in case. So that should cover everything we need on it. But they do, if you look through the years, they go up by several $100s each year.
Yeah, I know a few years ago when we first started with them, we were at 5, then it went to 7, then it went to 10, then it's just constantly escalating. I guess that's true with almost everything nowadays. Any questions, commissioners?
Just one, not really necessarily towards this piece, but why are we just approved a $29,000 clerical personnel, pretty much in the deputies there in the Registry of Deeds at $29,000 salary. Why is this salary 31? Why is there a $2,500 difference in most of these?
She's been here longer. That's simple
I thought
enough.
we just didn't hire this employee. Like, we put this employee full-time last year.
What was it, 2 years?
It's 2 years.
So 2 years is $2,500.
Well, first year was part-time, then
Portion of the first year, she was part-time. Yeah.
and then went to full-time.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, you're telling me a year and a half, it's $2,500 difference on our pay scale.
Could be.
Well, if you're looking between the 27 and the 31, that's the moving over to a wage study. The compensation study recommended the amount.
So you're telling me they recommended that amount, but they did not recommend an amount in the Registry of Deeds office?
Register of Deeds would be a step 1. And Sam's, I believe, is at a step 3, step 4. I don't have that in front of me right now. But there's a difference of steps between a step 1, because she's just coming in, where Miss Rosalie's been here, well, 2 years, so she's higher in steps.
Only been here a year and a half. We only approved her. She was part-time there before.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to get an understanding there.
Well, and then there's also the adjustment that the compensation study said for that position.
I would also like to add, she is well worth the money. Mr. Jewell comes by and talks to her regularly. The amount of stuff that she has to do in the office and what she's demanded to do, she is worth more than what I'm asking. And if you ask a lot of the public that come in, they are calling me on my cell phone saying, do everything you can to keep her. She is well worth the money. So
She's
Mr. Jewell.
absolutely been an asset to the office. I think that goes without saying. I think Mr. Gully's point is well taken, that there is a difference in pay in those two positions. And I think, he's rightful to ask what the difference would be and why. And I think it's just the amount of time that they've been on the job.
Yeah, my question was nothing to do with your personnel, what they're making. I'm fine with where we are at that point. I do struggle to see why we're bringing one on that's only a year to a year and a half different, and we're talking about a $2,500 jump. That's a pretty big dollar figure. It's $1.50.
2,000 a year is how much an hour? 50 cents difference?
I can tell you that her current
1,000.
rate is $13 and the Register of Deeds is $13.95. So the compensation study said that Sam's employee should be paid more than what she's currently being paid now.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I
Mr.
know
Burke.
that in different departments, when that wage study was undertaken, that they would compare that particular job, activity, or title to others in the other areas. So there's, probably not going to be always going to be the same, because you're talking about two different types of roles in two different types of departments. Whereas we might be okay in Department A as it compares to others, but we might be in a deficit in Department B with a different role. So sometimes you'll see things like that. You won't always see it marry up the same, because you're dealing with different lanes, so to speak. So that's not unusual to see that.
Of that, I won't disagree. I'm just seeing that every one of our clerical personnel that we're looking at are roughly at the exact same number in all the next pieces we're fixing to look at, whereas this one's not.
So are the others too low or this one too high?
In my opinion, this one is the one that is the other one is too low. And it's just one that I was talking about. We're looking at, if I look over next, just looking at these, they're almost identical as you look at the same line items. Maintenance person, in the next couple places. Deputies, for the property tax assessors, 33,859. I'm sure that's fixing to be adjusted. Don't hear me wrong. And I know she's been there a while. Deputies, again, 33,859, for the county trustees. That almost the exact same number, 33,859 is what we started with. So it's going to be the same number, the 31,442 for this employee. This employee is making the same that those other deputies, Miss Gross, who's been there quite a bit longer than I know, but they're fixing to be making the same dollar figure or salary, whereas this one's not. So it's not just time. That's what I'm getting at. Peggy Carver's been there quite a bit. She's gonna be making the same dollar figure. So is it different departments that have different work labels? That's all I'm getting at. To me, I was thinking our register of deeds might have been less. If I looked deeper, I would have already brought that out before we went finished.
Let us double check it and make sure that if there's a problem there, we can bring it up at a later date and try to correct it if need be. Is that satisfactory?
Do you have a solution as to what a correction would be?
Well, it would appear that no matter what the hours or years that they've worked with us, they're making the same dollar for these next few. And some of those have been there quite a few different years.
Because that's
So to
that
me,
job.
it'd be jumping to the same number is where I would be. The 33,859 seems to be a pretty regularly occurring for that deputy's position. I know it's fixing to move to the 31,442 with the change we did in the step there. Don't hear me wrong. But they're almost the same for all these next. To me, I don't see that, and I don't see a difference in years worked making a difference there on those people.
Would a better suggestion not be to increase the other two positions that you're arguing on?
I think before we did that, we would look at bringing the other one to where we need to be.
Let's just look at it and see if we can double check the figures and then come back to a later date with it.
So you're saying that the deputy for Register of Deeds needs to be at a grade 6? Because right now it's at a grade 5.
At this point, I was not looking at a grade, but I was looking at time, and this piece being the same piece as you said it was due to time served. Whereas we've got an employee who's been serving less than a year and a half, who is making the same salary as those that Miss Brenda Gross has been there quite a bit of time. So how are they at the same number is what I'm getting at. And how is this one starting? To me, the 29,000 seems low at the first part. That's one I'm working on now. But the others seem to be where they are, is what I'm saying.
So my question is, what is the solution that you're looking for?
I think Mr. Jewell said we need to look at that as we just talked about a minute ago and have a discussion on it. I need to look a little deeper at it. I grabbed these numbers here today and truly haven't studied through these. I'll be honest with you, as deep as I should have.
I really think it has to do with what step they're at, where they're starting, how long they've been there. A lot of them may be the same figure because they've been there the same amount of time and they're at the same step. So I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't have the employee data as to how long they've been there. But
Which when I went through these the first time is what I thought, but now looking back at an employee that has literally only been there a year and a half.
But I
we're
think
talking about.
we can look at.
That's
it
where I'm
and
having my
see
issue.
If there's anything different. Mr. Edwards, you're recognized.
So remembering the wage study and sitting down with people that did the wage study, I think I might have an answer for Mr. Gully. They ask specific duties that each person conducts so that they can do their wage study based on those duties. If you, like in my office, have multiple duties, they compound those together to increase that pay. So her steps are going to be way different than other people that have a singular duty or two duties because she has multiple duties. So they will take in their figures and they will calculate an average scale based on all the duties that she does and give them a slight bump depending on the number. So hers will be different per step. So she could be the same pay as somebody that's on step 6 in another department, but she'll be on step 3. So as her steps go up, it's going to continually be different than other people because her duties are different.
I believe that's a correct explanation. I will remind everyone, anything we do, we can amend, change, undo, going in the days ahead, even up to the third reading. Some of these things may need to be tweaked and changed. So with everyone's indulgence, we'll try to look at it again. And if it looks like it's something wrong with it, we'll get back and we'll have you a further better explanation. And Landon, you can have time to look at it and see if you can see if and where the problem is. Right now, any other questions on Mr. Edwards' proposed budget here for planning and codes?
One more comment, Chairman.
Yes.
As that wage study was performed, it would compare it to similar jobs in different counties and different cities. And so you may find that when they asked the codes director here about the duties and responsibilities, it might have been a blend. That might be a question for the wage study consultants that we used in this. That may be where your answer is. Of course, we can always change it to suit our own needs, but that may be where you find part of the answer. I know we talked about that when we were going through that in personnel. Yeah, it's something to look at.
I think that's correct. What's the will of the body on this department's request? Have a motion by Mr. Ferguson to approve. Mr. Ford gives us a second on it. Any further questions on it? Any further questions? See none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. And let's see, next up. Y'all want to take a break? Everybody good? All right, if someone needs to take a break, but we're going to keep going. We'll just go on without you. What's next? 51,800. We want to jump on county buildings. That'd be okay. County buildings, 51,800.
There is only one line item that needs to change, and that is the maintenance personnel. That's 33,033.
033.
Yes.
Okay.
That brings the function total to 256,659.
Okay. All right, Mayor, you want to give us a rundown on this one, please, sir?
All right, first item, it's not labor related. You see, we went down 10,000 on maintenance, repair services for the building. We've done quite a bit of work here over the last year or so. And some of that was the flooring going into the courthouse, which we had allocated the insurance funds we received after the pipe flooded. So we don't see some of those expenditures going away. So we went from 40,000 in the current amended budget down to 30,000. Maintenance repair services equipment, we did go up on that from 2,500 up to 10,000. Right now we estimate to spend 8,000 this year. And the reason we're asking for it is maintenance on generators and some filters for the Criminal Justice Center. Next large increase you see is electricity going from 60,000 to 65,000. Increase in natural gas from 19,000 to 25,000. And the rest of it pretty much stays the same. Total of 256,659.
Mr. Harsh?
Have we allocated enough money to reglaze and paint the windows here in the courthouse?
That'll be an item, since we're looking at grant money for that instead of tax money, that'll be an item when it comes up. We would ask for that to be done like we've done other projects such as the ball field lights and whatnot.
Mr. Ford?
What's the status on the air conditioner, Mayor?
We've gotten the final HVAC. Oh, are you talking about the current system or the new system? The new system. We've got the estimate submitted to us. There is a prompt pay discount that would be about $15,000. We'll be bringing it to the commission later this month. We're asking to, we originally were going to use some of, we were originally going to use all the American Rescue Fund. However, we were also going to use an inverse some of the governor's local support grant to pay for the ball field lights. I believe Mr. Salee had talked to some Park and Recreation Committee members. There might be a holdup on that. Those local support funds have to be spent by June 30th. So what we're going to bring to the commission this month through the budget committee is use that local support grant to pay for some on this HVAC, and then that'll free up and that same amount on American Rescue Funds, which we don't have to allocate until December 31st, 2024.
Do they have any sort of a date as to when they'll be able to put it in? It's gonna get hot here in a few more days, really hot.
Well, they're having to build it, and they're saying they probably won't be putting it in until somewhere, maybe the earliest to be September or October.
Well, the problem with what we have now, can we kind of cover that? It's the Freon leaks out
Yeah.
and what was the cost to charge it each time? It was,
I believe it was around $800.
If it's that old.
and it'll last about,
One of the units has multiple holes in it and it leaks out not long after charging it.
maybe get a week or two out of it, whatever. Right. So, I think if we can come up here, in the evenings, open our windows and doors, maybe put some fans in these that, we may suffer through it. If it's really, really hot, we will just try to convene over at the, community center is our thinking.
There is also a portable air conditioning unit we have that Mr. Slee is going to bring up here and plug in as well to help cool it off.
So we're trying to address it. It may be a little uncomfortable for a few meetings, but it's not going to be a lot. Okay. Any other questions on this category? Any questions? What's the will of the body? Motion to approve by Mr. Gregory.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harsh. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we got that one. Preservation of records. That's the archive building. Mayor, anything there worth note other than we're not buying microfiche equipment, so.
Yeah, just the difference between the amended budget is grants we received to get equipment. And so that's just not reflected in the next year's budget.
Basically the same, actually a little bit less, I believe. Any questions on it? Have motion approved, Mr. Ferguson, second by Mr. Ford. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. It is done. Okay. Property assessor's office. Give us some figures, Miss Amy, while Mr. Potts makes his way to the microphone.
All right, 52,300. Your deputies, 32,228. I believe the part-time personnel remains at 14,082. That brings your function total to 178,026.
Okay, I think the major change in this one, if I'm correct, is the yellow line is requesting a part-time personnel. Mike, run down this for us and tell us your need, please, sir.
Well, the biggest thing on there tonight, and just to let everybody know where it's come about, through our office, we have, of course, myself, the assessor, Miss Brenda, the office manager, and then what we don't have and what I've found throughout the state here lately is usually at 4,500 parcels, you have a deputy assessor. Now, Miss Brenda's carrying that role as well right now, but you know, we're asking a lot out of two people right there. And so that's why we're looking for part-time. And I talked to Mayor Chambers about this. I don't know that the full-time position is what we did as far as a full part-time position. I'm looking at so many days a month possibly. And it's just because of growth and just need the fact of the amount of people and parcels. We're right at 5,500 parcels right now. Of course, we see that growing all the time. You know, everybody's keeping up with everything going on, but that's where it's coming from. So that's the whole purpose of this. We talked about it last year. We actually put it in our budget last year to ask for part-time help. We took it out there before the meetings. And so this time we decided to bring it forth again.
Anything else in there that's you feel like you need to explain to us? Everything else is pretty much the same?
I believe so. Most of it, stationary and all that kind of stuff, I believe stays the same. Contract labor, that kind of thing is all, nothing has changed on that.
Of course, last year we had the truck that that is why the two figures look much the same by adding this in. This part-time person in kind of brings the totals up to the same thing. Mayor, can you expound on this one a bit?
Well, this is a property assessor's request. Like he said, he came to me on the part-time person and he doesn't have an exact number he was looking at. So that's why the 14,508, I think that's figured in on if somebody came in and worked regular part-time hours. However, as he said earlier, he was looking at just a few days a week, but I don't know that right now we had any other actual number to base that on. So that's why it's at the 14,508. And as you said, the vehicle came out, it's not in there this year.
Just one question. I know that we have on our data processing, the GIS, there's somewhere there's for GIS tech support. Is that what we're paying the young lady that comes in? Is that where that comes in that category?
No, so the GIS tech support, that's through the state. That's just to keep up with all the maps and keep them current. Her part comes through the contract labor on there. Is that right, Miss Amy? I don't have that in front of me right there, but Miss Rachel Farley, thank you.
Rachel, yeah.
She comes in once a month and does mapping.
That's what I'm saying. That shows up in other contracted services.
Correct.
And we're paying her roughly $6,000 for her doing that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. If we get this part-time person, can we train them to do this GIS and roll those duties to them?
That's why I'm saying I don't see this until future being a full part-time position. What I'm looking at is more of a as need. The biggest time of the year, of course, is right now, March.
Sure.
March is always big. April's big. Personal property processing and things like that. Of course, reassessment this year is big, but I always have a lot of traffic at this time of year. Again, we'll have it in October. So it's not I'm not asking for 3 days a week throughout the whole year. I'm more or less looking to kind of plug in seasonal help, I guess is what you would say. And that's why me and the mayor talked about, I don't have an exact number. I can get you more of a hard number, but that's what we just put down as part-time help right now. But yes, I have discussed it with Miss Rachel about training for the mapping position, and she is willing to do that. And so again, that's something that we've looked at as well.
Okay. Do you think you're going to be able to, I mean, do you have someone in mind for this position that can work that type schedule? I mean, what we're running into, particularly with part-time people, is they want a full-time job. They either want to work or not work. They don't want to work every now and then. Do you think that's going to be an issue trying to find someone to do that?
It's like anything else. It's always an issue of any kind to try to part-time help. I have discussed it with a couple of gentlemen here in town. One's a part-time mail carrier. You guys know the mail carrier's position is hard to get on full-time. He does part-time. Of course, he stays busy almost 5 days a week, but he has routes and times that he can get in. Another gentleman works for a telecommunication company, lives here in town, but he's looking at retiring. And so I approached him about it. And it's pretty much kind of some of the, right now I've got a stack of probably 50 or better building permits to be looked at throughout the county. And I try to go out and catch them when they're in framing mode. And I try to go back and catch them when they're at the finishing mode, where I can see where it starts and where it ends. That way we can properly assess them. And so it's just the amount of time getting all those, plus evaluations and things of that nature too. So it's nothing more than just the amount. It's all it is, just the amount of work and workload coming through the office. But yes, I have spoke to 2 of those. I think I've got another, I've talked to another couple of people, women I know of as well. And so, I don't believe, and it's like I say, it's almost going to be a contract labor side more than it will be a part-time position, I guess is what I'm getting at, is what I was kind of approaching.
Thank you. I understand now. Mr. Harsh.
I move to approve the property assessor's proposed budget.
I think we've got a lot of questions. Do we have a second to the motion? We'll go to questions. Mr. Ford, that was a second. Okay. Further questions? Mr. Clarity, you are next.
How much per hour are you figuring on paying this part-time help?
I'm assuming that's a figure that's already figured in, if I'm right on that, Miss Amy? For part-time help, as far as where they come up with a budget there?
Looks like it would be at 1354. Wait, this is a really outdated sheet. Hold on.
Mr. Gully, did you have a question as well?
I did. As we're looking at this position here, we were talking about the Register of Deeds having an individual who was full-time because we couldn't keep a part-time individual on. Is that, and it sounds like that was the main reason we tried to hire a full-time individual and make that a full-time position. If part-time was closely enough, but we couldn't keep a person there, could we not maybe let that individual share these two every now and then spots? If we're hiring an individual full-time because that individual position is being a difficulty to hire and keep a part-time individual trained, we're going to hire it as a full-time. They're right there beside each other. Can we not merge that a little bit from time to time if it's only that very few times you're saying at this point you need it?
I do know that we have looked at that in times, having what we call a floater that would be kind of on need in the various departments as there was someone on vacation or sick or whatever. The issue came into, I think in times past, if I misspeak, Mayor, you correct me, is the training, the amount of training for the job specific tasks in each office is not the same. So you would have a person with tremendous, a lot of training in this office, and so many times, at least I know in my mind, when a long time goes between when you do something, you do a task, you tend to forget or get rusty. And I know that was part of the thinking there at that time in that discussion, as I remember it. Certainly not opposed to it. And Mayor, is that something that you think could be explored or has been explored, or?
I know we
comments on
had
that?
discussed a year or so ago looking at a floater position, and I think, and again, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but I think as you said, kind of some of the responsibilities and when they're going to be coming there, because some offices have the same kind of overlap as far as when they're busy. Was that kind of correct? Yeah, I'm getting head shakes. Yes. There was some issues there when we looked at it. I mean, if it can be worked out, I'm sure maybe some offices might be interested in it. But then again, like I said, Candace's office has been pretty slammed with all the sales and everything coming in. So I don't know if there's going to be time there to do it or not. That'd be kind of up to her. And again, it's also kind of which office are they couched under? And there were several issues there about whose employees are going to be, or who's paying them for these hours. And there were several issues there as far as overlap.
And she needs them on Monday and he needs them on Monday. Which Monday do they go to? So there's a lot of issues like that a lot of times just hard to work out. Yes, sir.
I disagree. Scheduling can sometimes be a difficulty. Don't hear me wrong. But I would disagree with the statement that we couldn't work this out if we're talking about a seasonal individual, and training is not it can't be much of an issue if we're talking about a seasonal individual for a very short amount of time, is what we were discussing there in this case. So if we had a position, my understanding was we were told we have a position that we're moving to a full-time because we cannot keep a part-time employee there. We've turned it over 3 times. Was that? That was what was told to us here just a few minutes ago. So that was what was told to us. We can't hold.
I did, but that was not the whole reason, but that was part of the reason. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was part of the reason.
Can I address the committee? And we have talked about that at length as well. The thing with Miss Candace's office, she has a part-time only. She didn't have a full-time employee. So her office definitely needs full-time. And I understand that too. Now, me and Miss Cindy Carmen's office have discussed this at length as well, because my schedule and what I'm asking them to work won't matter as far as the day of the week that they work, if that makes it clear. She needs them on Monday and she needs them on Friday. So yes, Mr. Gully, that's definitely something that we've talked about. And I do see that that would work fine. Again, it's going to come down to where the money comes from, which department it comes from. I don't have a problem with it being in my budget and using and allowing them to work part-time with Miss Cindy's office as well, because she definitely needs part-time help too. Our offices go hand in hand. Every dollar that comes to this county goes through her office. Every dollar that comes in this county is generated by my office. So they're right there hand in hand. So I definitely see that as a compromise, and I'd be willing to work with them, no problem, because it's going to be exact same information. It'll actually work great because I'll see the information coming straight from my office straight to Miss Cindy. So I definitely see that being a compromise that I'm willing to work for, and I know Miss Cindy would too. We talked about it at length in the last couple of weeks.
Mr. Clarity?
Yeah, what I don't understand here is you come up with $14,508, but you don't know when they're going to work, how much they're going to work, or how you come up with this number. Yeah, but we can't do hypothetical
We
on a
base it on
budget. We
20
need to know
hours.
something.
I think that figure was based on 20 hours. It's a maximum that would work as part-time would be 20 hours.
But
Because you put it in the budget and they don't work that much, it's going to be left over. But if he does need them that much, that's what it would cost to work them 20 hours a week. Does that answer your question? Okay.
the number came up if you didn't know how many hours they was working and all of that, but
20 hours a week. Is that correct, Mayor?
I believe that's what we budgeted on, because we have to have some kind of number to budget on, so I think
Had to
that's
put
what was
something
used.
down, so. Any other questions for Mr. Potts?
I actually do have one. Is there going to be any more equipment that's needed for this position? Is there going to be a desk that's needed for this position?
In my office, we already have a desk that would be used for that position. We have space there. And I'm using Miss Cindy because we talk about this. In her office, that would be something that would have to be addressed. If it was somebody that was part-time between the two, is room for her. And of course, that's down the line, but you know, the building is going to be changing hands here soon. Different departments are going to be moving. So I'm sure offices and stuff's going to be open. So I don't think that would be a problem.
Question. Of course, we have a motion and a second on this. Of course, we can amend it at any time. I'd like to ask that maybe Mr. Potts and Cindy Carmen maybe converse about this in the next week or two, and maybe take that number 14,508 and see how that might break down between the two departments. If we could use a floater, just as a hypothetical situation, I mean, it would help us out, you know? Yeah, because I see the merit in that. I do.
All right, we do have a motion on the floor and a second. If there's no further discussion, motion was by Mr. Harsh, the second was by Mr. Ford. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, ayes do have it. Ms. Potts, thank you. Try to see if you can, if that's something that's viable, that you, if it is, bring it back to us and let us explore that. Okay. All right, moving next into the trustee's office. Ms. Carmen here? No? Okay. Mayor?
I text her. She said she couldn't make it, but she said that her budget's
Basically
the same, and she had mentioned something about some part-time help, but it's not in the budget.
Okay. Give us our figures, please.
Your deputy is 32,228. As was just mentioned, she did have a part-time in here originally, but she did take it out because currently there's no space. And that was just if that person was going to be in her office. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes, at the time, it was if they're going to be in her office, there's barely enough room for her and Peg right now. The discussions have been, once water department moves out, Miss Rita is going to move over to the drive-through area, and we may expand Miss Carmen's office by removing the current kitchen administration building and expanding her office back to give them more room.
Amy, what was her figure as a part-time?
As the
Just
part-time,
curiosity.
I believe it was the same as Potts.
Probably.
Yeah. That 14,508.
Mhm. That's what we changed the other two.
14,508.
But we adjusted it down. You told us 14,082, I think. 14,082 is what.
Okay, this one might just be not updated. Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So if she did the same 20-hour, it would come in at 14,082. But
So
right now, there's
the-
no room for her. So I think that's something that we need to look at if and when we get this thing juggled around like we're planning on.
So that makes the trustees function 158,929.
Anything of note on it, Mayor?
No, not really. There's a little bit increase in the printing of stationery and forms, send out tax notices, but we've had a tremendous increase in the number of properties that are getting tax notices. So that's just an incidence of that. And then there's an increase in data processing services, but that's just due to an increase in the cost of software.
Questions, commissioners? Ms. Atwood? Have a motion to approve. Mr. Gully gets second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That one is approved. Okay, County Clerk's Office. 52,500. You know, give us some numbers.
Sorry, I had to update minutes. All right, county clerk. Deputies, 61,523. That brings your function total to 180,613.
186,13.
180,613.
Okay. All right. The lovely Miss Crowder. Talk to us.
The only main difference that I'm requesting is to move my part-time to full-time. And the reason being the same as everybody else, we've had so many new people move in, and a lot of these people have 4 and 5 vehicles per family. And once we move over to the water department or we have the drive-through, we're gonna need that extra person there all the time, because it'll just be easier that way, and it'll be more work if it was just me and Tammy trying to do the drive-through and the office of people coming in, you know, up to the desk. So I would like to see her go full-time if y'all would approve that.
Do you think you would be needing to move her to full-time prior to moving to there, or would that coincide with when you do that move?
I would like to start at the beginning of this new budget if we could. And because of the influx of people that we are having. And I hate to bring this up again, because I know last year I was worried because Tammy had to have surgery. She's gonna have to have surgery again this year. And she's gonna be out several weeks with that later on this year. So I'll need some help.
Mr. Ferguson?
So irregardless of the move, you're needing the help anyway.
Yes, that's correct.
Mhm.
Mr. Clarity?
How much would her pay be an hour?
What does that,
She will be at $13.88 per hour. The one moving from part-time to full-time would be at $13.88.
Or, all right, what's Miss Tammy making presently?
She will be at $15.32.
Is the 1388 figure the same whether it's part-time or full-time? Any other questions? Mr. Ferguson?
Motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Well, thank you very much. You got it, you got it. Oh, okay, okay. I understand. We do have a motion by Mr. Ferguson and a second by, what's your name? Burton, Mr. Burton. Mr. Ford's protege. Okay, okay. Any further questions on this one? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Thank you, Miss Rita.
thank y'all very much.
You're welcome very much. Data processing services, Amy, you want to go over this one with us? You probably deal with this more than anybody.
Well, that would be true.
Just a second. Go ahead.
If we're going to
Was in there. It's in there. It was in there. It was in. No. That's why the deputies increased. Okay. Amy.
Okay, your data processing, that is mainly your phone lines, our maintenance on county fiber, our web design, again, our phone system. There's really not too much change. The only major change was moving the monthly maintenance agreement with Artist Networks over into data processing where it should be in the first place. It was moved out of other charges. So that's mainly the biggest increase. Our county email system is also going to see an increase this coming year. So that's why it moved from 40,000 to 55,000. That's not all Gmail services.
Right.
It's just a partial of it. The other one is the phone services.
Any questions, commissioners? That's what it costs to do business. I have a motion by Ms. Atwood to approve. Mr. Ford gets this second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We got that one taken care of too. Moving right along. Let's see, 5,300, 5,100. Have we done that one yet? No, we haven't done that. That's Miss Kim. Yeah. Circuit Court, sometimes referred to as Circus Court. Kim, is there anything in here you need to explain to us? It looks pretty much the same as last year. Am I correct in saying that? We're gonna need you to come up to the microphone, darling.
I will speak for Kim when that is time to update the deputy numbers. Or Mr. Burton will speak for Kim when it is time. To update the deputy numbers, it is 69,937. That brings her function total to 215,453. And as she was saying, her legal notices went up $200, and that's the only really other change.
Only thing I noticed. Any questions? Thank you for that, Ms. Kim. Mr. Harsh,
Move to approve the budget for the
have a motion to approve.
Circuit
Mr.
Court.
Harsh and second by Mr. Gregory. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? It is carried. All right, General Sessions Court. I guess, Mayor, you want to explain anything on it?
Really, the only change here was increase into Judge Linville, and that is a statutory increase required by law.
Yes, sir. Okay. Any questions on this one? Mr. Gully makes motion to approve. Ms. Atwood makes a second. Any further discussion on this one? With that much of an increase for the judge, I think he should take us all to dinner. Let's see. Oh, I didn't say that. I was. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That one's done as well. All right. Next, Chancery Court. This is Miss Shelley Jones is our administrative officer in that one. Deputies, what's that figure, ma'am?
Deputies is 28,865.
28,850?
28,865.
65. Okay, thank you.
That brings the function total to 145,768.
Okay. Radio, no major changes in this that I can see. Is anything, Mayor, that you need to point out?
No, there's no increases.
Mr. Ford. Motion to approve, Mr. Ford, second by Mr. Gully. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is carried. Judicial Commissioners. Is there change? There's no changes in those, are there?
There's a
Yes,
slight increase on the contracted services, which is what the monthly contract rate we pay the judicial commissioners. We're going from 34,500 to 35,400. And I think we increased it by what, $60 or so a month, what we're paying them?
60 a month each?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Or like $40.
It went from 1433 to 1475.
I thought it was 1414, so $40 increase then.
A little bit of an increase. Mr. Gregory makes a motion to approve. Mr. Ford makes a second. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Takes care of that one. Courtroom security, we've already done, have we not? Okay. Public safety sheriff, so what's left?
54,240 juvenile services.
Yeah, juvenile services, page 23. Page 23. This should be a change in our figures.
Her other salaries is 38,131. That brings her function total to 53,414.
That's what we have here.
So there was no change in her.
Why would there?
No, when they did the wage study, they tried to, if you were below 85% of the market rate, they tried to move you up to get you within a range. This youth service officer was already at 101% of the market rate, so it left it the same.
That's why. Okay. All right. I knew there had to be a few that were fall into that category. I just didn't know who they were.
Actually, no, she does need to be changed with the decision that was made Monday night. That figure is, I just lost it. 36,293.
36,293.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, 36,293. Instead of 38,131, and the total would change to,
The total is now 51,329.
okay. Everything else is the same. Ms. Atwood, motion to approve. Mr. Ford makes second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is done. And I think is that it?
No, we still have inspection and regulation, 54,510.
That's
54,510.
that's under EMS. We covered that the
Okay,
other
how
night.
We've
about
already done it, I
county
believe.
coroner and medical examiner?
Yeah, coroner, I don't think we did that the other night. 54,610. Coroner. Okay. Evidently, death is a good business to be in right now. $39,000. Mayor, what's the changes there?
The only increase is in contracted services. That's autopsy we pay to, I guess, the state medical examiner in Nashville, and they're going up on their charges. It was 1,800, not 1,850. I think now it's going up to 2,100.
So they're increasing from 1,850 to 2,100. So we're still thinking that we're budgeting for 15 autopsies, is that correct?
Yes, and we also get reimbursement on some of these from Core Civic.
Sure.
That was gonna be my question.
Okay. All righty. Any questions on that one? Mr. Harsh?
Move to approve the.
Motion to
coroner.
approve. Mr. Gully makes a second. Have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is carried. And let's see, public health, this is our health department building. Is that basically what we have there? That is the 55,110. Mayor, you want to present this one? Is anything looks basically the same?
The only thing that's new is 2,500 for in-service and staff development.
Okay. Okay. What staff would be getting that training?
I believe that would be Hope Gregory and an office assistant. And I think there's one other, so it'd be 3 staff at the health department.
Okay. Should that not be covered by, I mean, technically they're employees of the state, are they not? Or they are employees?
They are employees of the state, and there was some additional training that apparently the state will only pay for directors to get it. It's in regards to pandemic response. And so the health director asked if we could look at this as part of his budget to get that training for the local staff. There were times during the pandemic when he couldn't be here on site, and this would allow them to be more self-sufficient, was his request.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So we're going to be paying for staff training for state employees.
That was the request, yes, sir.
I'll let y'all talk about this. I may have to pass the gavel to talk to this one. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on that?
Looks like they pay for their own training. That's how I operate in the county, so maybe it becomes a family liability.
I don't know. I can't address that. I know that what they do is for the benefit of our county. That's obvious. And they do a lot of good for our county. I don't think I begrudge that amount of money as much as it's the thought of, yeah. But whatever the will of the body is. Mr. Burton.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, but taking out 524. Let the state pay for their own people.
So we have a motion to approve this budget and deleting the $2,500 amount. Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion, Mr. Clarity? That's a second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on it? Okay. All in favor? I'm sorry, Mr. Ford?
I think we ought to check with them before we take this out. No, we might be coming back with a budget amendment to cover it. We need to check with them at the, out there at their office and find out why they're asking us to pay for the training.
Save them $2,500.
Well, I think the mayor has explained that. Mayor, would you like to explain it a little bit better? Maybe we didn't necessarily understand the importance of this.
There is some training available for health department staff for pandemic response. Currently, the state will only pay for the director positions. To get that training, they don't pay for anything below that. This would be our office staff that's here inside the county. The director is not full-time here in Travis County. Matter of fact, his office is mainly in Wilson County. So there were times when during the COVID-19, he was not on site. And so this would allow them to be a little bit more self-sufficient as far as regarding response to pandemics. So that's what the request was for.
If he's had this training, can he not instruct his employees under his direct supervision in what those tasks would entail? Is this an online training? Is this a one-day training? Is this a week-long? What? I don't understand. I really don't. I'm not trying to be difficult. Please. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to understand.
This is, I believe, an in-person 1 to 2 day training, and it results in a certification.
And this is for COVID response training specific to that.
No, it is for pandemic response in general, not COVID specific.
Okay. Since this is a COVID related expense, could that training be funded out of our, for lack of a better thing, COVID money?
You could do that. You can use it for training medical personnel if you wanted to do that.
Mr. Harsh?
Move to amend the motion to add that this training be done out of our COVID money.
He would have to amend his motion.
I'm not changing it, sir.
Okay. We can come back with a separate motion on that. But it would be up to him to amend his motion if he wants to. Okay. We do have a motion and a second to fund this without the $2,500 staff training figure in it. All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, let's show of hands. All in favor, show of hands. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All opposed? 2, 3, 4, 5. The ayes have it, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miscount? 5 to 5. Okay. It's a tie. Who didn't vote? 2, 4, 6, 8. We got 10 people here. Mayor, are you voting?
Do I get a vote on a committee? I know the charter provides I get a vote at county commission meetings. I don't know about committees.
I can't answer that. You're not on the committee. Are you on the committee? You
No,
are?
now that I've thought about it, I'm specifically under state law, I am a ex officio non-voting member of all committees. I'm only get a vote on tie break under the county charter.
Motion fails for lack of a majority. So do we want to entertain another motion?
Motion to approve using that training and taking that out of the COVID money.
Okay, Mr. Ford, that's a second. Okay, this motion is to fund this $2,500 out of the, what is the proper title for that? A ARPA
American
fund?
Rescue Plan Act.
Okay, and to approve the rest of it. Is that correct? Okay. Any discussion on this one? Mr. Ford?
I still like some communication with those people out there at the office to see if there's a way that the state could pay for it.
Well, I would assume, and I'm just assuming, that they wouldn't be asking us to do it if they could do that. But I think the mayor has explained that.
I pushed for that very thing for 2 weeks and the state says no.
Mr. Clarity?
The way I look at it, this motion's the same thing as the other. We're still using county money. Yeah, but it's still, if this person over here in Lebanon has got the training for it, why can't we send somebody over there, or he come here and let the state pay it?
He currently does not have the training. He would be going through the class at the same time, just they will not cover his training. I mean, they will not cover the staff's training. They'll only cover his.
To help out a little bit, if you're wanting to pay for it from the ARPA funds, it can come out of that particular fund, which means you could remove it from the 101 that you're currently looking at, if that helps this conversation move forward.
So you're saying we'd approve it in this, we'd move that money from that to this line item?
Well, if you could do that, or I could just pay for it directly out of 128 or 127, and it does not see 101 at all.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes, sir.
What's the training going to cost in the next upcoming 5 years? Exactly. Who knows? Thank you.
You know, they served us well during the COVID. I don't know what additional training that they're going to need after 2 years of dealing with COVID that they haven't already gotten, but I don't know. I can't speak to that. Mr. Ford.
They pay it too. But the point is, what if something comes up? May not be COVID, it may be something else, and they're not sitting there qualified to do it. And we're putting ourselves in a bad position when we take this money from something that don't even belong to us to start with. It was given to us.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor to approve this and the $2,500 funding for the training coming out of the ARPA funds. Is that correct? Is that the motion? Okay. And that motion was made by Mr. Harsh and seconded by Mr. Ford. Am I correct on that? Okay. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, let's do the show of hands. Ayes. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Noes. Okay. 7 and 3. Yeah. Okay. I believe that passes. Okay. Okay. Are we about to get through animal shelter? What time is it? It's 8 o'clock. Let's try to make this the last one. Is that okay with everyone? Animal shelter, Mayor, we need to change some figures on some attendance and things.
Yes, you do. All right, your attendant. Okey dokey, hold on.
Page 28.
You good?
Mhm.
The attendant is 31,442. 31,442. Your part-time attendant is 11,300. That moves the function total to 92,398.
Okay, Mayor, go over this with us. Looks like our total difference between last year's amended budget and this request is about $30,000, or almost a third again as much. So try to explain to us where this is all at.
There's an increase in veterinary services. We've had more animals come in, so we're asking for an increase there. Increase in food and other supplies for the animals. Again, we've seen more animals come in. I think since December 1st, when Ms. Trout took over till April 30th, we've had 47 animals, which is about the same amount we had in all of the previous fiscal year. You'll see an increase in electricity. We used to have a heating unit, an oil-based heating unit there that they kept malfunctioning, and so they took that out. Now they have a central heat and air unit. And so that's went from that oil burning to all electricity. That's increased electricity cost. There was previously not a vehicle there. They've been using one of the public works vehicles that is ready to die at any moment. The water department has a Ford Transit Connect van, one of those little small ones you see, that they are going to surplus, and we're going to bring it to county commission this month to move that from the water department over to the animal shelter for them to use to transport animals for vet services and other things. It will need some work on a door that's in the back. One of the locks has a problem with it, and they're going to put some kennels and stuff inside of it to make it suitable for animal transport. So that's why we will need a gasoline line item where we don't currently have that. There are some shelter software they're now using that they didn't use before, and this is to help keep track of intakes and outcomes for animals and other kinds of information. And then they're going to see a big increase here in building improvements. That building is old and it was not really constructed for the purpose it's doing now. We actually had Mr. Edwards go out and do an assessment on the building, or an inspection on the building. He came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 items where it does not meet our current codes. So we won't ask to fix those items. Some of it's drains in the floor, it's plumbing issues. There's electrical extension cords going all along the ceiling that doesn't meet code. Again, plumbing throughout the building is not run correctly. There's no fire alarm currently inside the building, and some of the AC duct that used to cool the building doesn't even extend to the entire length of the building. It goes about 3/4 of the way through. And so we're asking for some funds to do those improvements to the animal shelter. And some of that will come out of the animal shelter as reserves.
Are we thinking about that shelter being a permanent place? And if so, is that going to get us up to where we would need to be?
It is going to be a short-term thing with some of the projects we're looking at, particularly the Justice Center and maybe an expansion of the health department, which we should be able to use American Rescue funds for. If most, I think we're pushing it out 3-4 years. I've also talked to Ms. Trout about trying to work with concerned citizens to maybe begin a humane society here inside Trousdale County. That will be a 501c3, and then we'll try to work with that for fundraising and other items that they'll have access to grants that the county doesn't as a local government.
Commissioners?
Is that gas gonna be enough on there? Cause I'm only seeing like $300 for.
Well, it is a little bit more fuel efficient vehicle, and most of the time it'll just be going back and forth to the vets. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of use on that.
Any other questions? Mr. Ferguson?
Yeah, I was out there about 2 weeks ago and I've seen some of the issues with the building itself. That's why I was wondering, how long were we anticipating it lasting? Because it is in pretty rough shape.
I think once we figure out what we're going to do in some of these other building issues, that'd be one to address, but I think we need to get our financing in place for some of these larger ones and then address the animal shelter. That's why I wanted to form a 501c3. There are grants out there that would help construct facilities that would be more towards a 501c3 than a local government. And we could enter into an agreement with them to, however it needs to be structured at that time to take advantage of those.
Well, I will echo the sentiments that the building absolutely must have these repairs. I don't think that's an option. Might be an option as to exactly how they're paid for, but I think it absolutely must be done.
And
Any other questions, Mr. Ferguson?
Motion to approve it.
Motion to approve, and I have a second by Mr. Harsh. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Ms. Trout.
I would also like to ask that our part-time employee become full-time and we add an additional part-time because of the amount of intake and all of the things that we're doing to the building and everything else going on with it.
Mayor, would you address that? Was this something you've had discussions on?
Yeah, we did have discussions with it and I took those items out of the budget. I looked at with the current staffing, giving some of the times coming in. I think there's been times when the current part-time person didn't work up to the full 29 hours that we could go towards. So I thought we could do staffing there and look at it as we go forward. I took those items out. I've told Ms. Trout if she wants to bring it to the committee to see if you'd be interested in put it back in, she was more than welcome to do so. However, I took those items out.
That would be roughly an additional, did I understand you to say taking the part-time to full-time and having a part-time? Or,
Yes, sir. That's correct.
okay, so you're looking at another full-time or another $30,000 or doubling your budget? Thoughts? We do have a motion to approve the budget as presented and a second. Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Harsh. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Mr. Ferguson, would you like to amend your motion or are you good with your motion? It would be 30,000 plus. It would take it to 122, I would think, or 130, yeah, 122, where it was 62 or an additional, you're looking at $60,000, almost doubling it. Yes or no? Okay. All right, the motion is to accept the budget as presented. Duly second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. If you want to bring this back to us at a later date, we'll try to take a look at it when we've had more time to kind of digest it.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
When you bring it back, bring some data about the amount of time and everything, that we can see some hard data as for the need of the additional people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Everybody okay to leave? Y'all want to push on a little bit more? I think we can finish up. Basically, all we have is schools and a few other things. I mean, not tonight, but I mean, at our next meeting, I think we can. There's not a great deal other than that, is there?
Actually, if you can stay for about 5 or 10 more minutes, you can shoot through 101 pretty easily. Because you just have the litter grant and the senior center, and I believe the ag extension.
Okay. Let's just push on. Let's get this out of the way. So what is my category? 5,700? 57,100? 55, what page? 55,720 sanitation education litter program grant. Okay, page 29, sanitation education litter program grant. Mayor, would you like to present this, please? And we need some updated figures, I assume.
There are some updated figures. The media personnel is 12,553. The guards is 11,375. The hours, the ratio hours have changed, and that's why it looks different than the previous years. Because the total for the litter program will always be 44,200. That is a grant funded program. There's really no other change to that. The other supplies and materials will adjust to make the function total 44,200.
So basically, we will be taking those down to so that it totals out to 44,200. 44,200 is what we get on the litter grant. This is the way they're proposing to spend it. Everybody okay with that one? Any questions on it? Seeing none. Mr. Walsh?
Motion to approve.
Have motion to approve. Mr. Ford has a second. He beat you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, what's the next one? What am I missing here?
So your next one's going to be 56,100. This is actually a brand new function, but it's not. Like I said, the litter grant and the senior center, those positions are divided amongst another function because the grants for those two programs only cover so much. I moved 2 positions out of county buildings into 56,100, and those are for the senior center, citizens center. So that is where those amounts currently now reside. Your supervisor director is 10,816. Your assistant is 33,533. So that makes this function 63,197. The same amount, well, 46,000 was over in county buildings last year. And as I said, it's now moved over into its own function. And that's just better to separate them out so we know exactly how much the senior citizens center is expending. And this function, along with 56,300, if you will allow me, the director position in that function is 32,447, which brings the senior citizens total to 53,285. It is grossly less than previous years because of the CARES Act grant that was incorporated into it. That should be the remaining balance should be carried over to this year and hopefully depleted in this coming year. And really, there's no other changes than what I just went over.
No major changes other than that, right? The CARES Act and the personnel changes. Okay. Commissioners? Mr. Harvey? Motion to approve. Mr. Ford has a second. Further discussion? Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That one is done. And libraries? 56,500, page 31.
Assistance line item, 47,502. Librarians, 36,881. Brings the function to 144,755. One of the main differences in the budgeted amounts is, again, a grant program that will probably happen again this year, but that'll be a budget amendment later on.
I know we're subject to maintenance of effort on this. Is this going to meet our maintenance of effort?
It
does. Mr. Ford. Motion to approve by Mr. Ford. Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions, commissioners? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That one is done. Oh, what's next? Is that it? Agricultural natural resources, 5,700. That's the next one. Okay, 57,100. Ag natural resources, Mayor, any major changes in this one?
No, sir.
Okay, do we have a revised figure on salary? That they come,
Yep, we do not decide their salaries.
okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so everything basically is the same. Okay. No major increases. Have a motion to approve by Ms. Atwood, second by Mr. Gully. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll move that one on. Soil conservation. Motion to approve by Mr. Ford. Second by Mr. Harsh. Any further questions on that one? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that one's in there. Economic Community Development. Mayor?
This is mainly grants we have coming in to the community. As you can see, 3-star grant was in there, home grant, Tennessee Downtowns grant. And a lot of those are ending. That's why you see the major decrease. Any grants we get in the future that are economic development related would go into this function.
Okay. Mr. Gully?
What's the IBD retail strategies there? That's not a grant, correct? That's other contracted services?
Well, what this actually should be, I'm not sure it should be in contracted services. This is the request from the IDB for $15,000. Last year, the county approved 10,000 and they're asking for increasing it up to 15,000 to help pay for retail strategies and their retail recruiting that they're doing for the county.
This actually goes into the IDB. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's a contribution to the Industrial Development Board.
Really ought to be under a contribution. Yeah. Yeah. We have, in many years past, funded IDB. We got away from doing that several years ago. They've utilized a lot of their funds to pay for this retail strategies commitment that I believe was, how much was it a month?
I think it's $32,000 a year.
32 a year. And this is just to try to put small amount of money in there to build their fund balance up a bit where they've been doing that.
So they're asking for 5,000 extra over the 10,000. The first time we gave this 10,000 was last year.
That's
According to our
correct.
past.
In
and we're
sometime.
Going up 50% more
In
in a
some
year.
time. Yeah.
I think if I've understood Mr. King right in the past, that would have been really more something that we would have funded retail strategies, but because they had the money, they were willing to fund it for us. So they were just wanting some help back in that regard.
Well, the Industrial Development Board has certain powers it has. One of the things it can do is in retail. It can work with retail groups and things like that. So it was decided that it's probably better to put it on the Industrial Development Board under the county because we have no economic development staff. And that is basically an economic development agency. And so that's why it was determined to put it under the IDB. That, and they also were going to help pay for the majority of the cost. And then the county was going to help them recoup some of it as we go along.
They don't have a very large fund balance. Mr. Gully?
Motion to approve without the 15,000, leaving it at 10,000.
So your motion is to change the 15 to 10?
That's correct.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Mr. Ford makes a second. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have, I believe the ayes carry. So we will change that to 63,000. Okay. All righty. What's left, Miss Amy? Veterans? All right. Veteran Services. Okay. Mayor, any comments on this as it stands? Not a lot of difference in it. We know that if we go with the director, that there would be some additional cost. I think that's been voted to go that direction, but that person has not been hired yet. Is that correct?
No, sir, it's not been hired yet. We're advertising for that. And then Ms. Gallion, who is the Sumner Veteran Service Officer, is going to help us do the interviews and things as we go forward.
Okay. So the amount that we're paying on the MOU with Sumner County would go toward that position, or would be out of them?
No, sir, the Veteran Services voted to continue with the MOU or let it expire naturally. It's going to expire on November 23rd. There's going to be a training period there because you can't have somebody come in that is not certified and be a director of the office. So they're going to work under Ms. Gallion where they get trained and then get certified. And then she's going to start stepping back and they're going to take over. And then our agreement with Sumner County would then expire in November.
That's why that amount was reduced, but not totally eliminated.
Yes, sir. That's why
Right.
it was reduced. We're not totally eliminated because she's going to train them until they go to get their certification and the additional training. And then when they come back, her role will be reduced till she won't be inside the county as much.
Right. The 16,115 that's proposed for a director's salary entails what?
Are you talking about job responsibilities or?
No, the amount of hours, is that 40-hour week, 20-hour week?
That
It's a
is 20
20-hour
hours a week. The Veteran Services Officer has to do at least 20 hours a week to
Right.
stay certified under federal law. And there was some concern about, is there going to be enough work for this position? So it was voted to leave it at the 20 hours a week. Review it. If it need to be increased in the future, then that's when it would be looked at again.
Okay.
Mayor, has this job been posted?
Yes.
And with the decision from Monday night, the director's position is 15,721. 15,721, which is, the function total is 22,449.
Other questions? Mr. Ford? Have a motion to approve. Mr. Walsh gets second. Any further questions on this? Want everybody to understand what we're doing? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is done. Okay. What's next?
I believe everything else can be discussed on another night if the committee would like to make that particular motion.
Okay. All right, we will have any comments from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Wall.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We will reconvene on Tuesday night, May 10th. We will deal with schools. And are there other?
We will need to finish up 101, do schools, and I guess water department.
Okay. So very little, but not much.